Hi guys! Pro-life or pro-choice? It's a hot topic again in US due to the appointment of a very conservative judge, Amy Coney Barrett. I know it's a very sensitive issue and you all have your own opinion, but let's try to examine abortions fairly and see the arguments from both sides. So, we have two positions. Pro-life. These people believe that life begins with the conception and abortion is basically a murder. And pro-choice, which believes that fetus is part of a woman's body and the woman has a right to terminate the pregnancy at any time. To be clear, my position is neither of that. I don't believe that abortions is some kind of a human right. It's just a very useful mechanism to fight the poverty and manage the population, and therefore I believe that they should be allowed. Since I'm closer to pro-choice, let's start from challenging pro-life idea. There is a very good video from conservative PragerU which explains pro-life position to pro-choice people.
Does the human fetus have any value and any rights? Now, it's a scientific fact that a human fetus is human life. Those who argue that the human fetus has no rights say that a fetus is not a person. But even if you believe that, it doesn't mean the fetus has no intrinsic value or no rights. There are many living beings that are not persons that have both value and rights. Dogs and other animals, for example.
Well, that's true, but there are lots of different living beings like cows, chicken, mosquitoes, which don't have these rights.
And that's moral argument number one. A living being doesn't have to be a person in order to have intrinsic moral value and rights.
This is a very strange manipulation because I don't think anyone challenges that statement. The society decides whether a fetus has some rights or not. If one day the humanity will be on the verge of extinction, we can definitely give rights to fetus.
When challenged with this argument, people usually change the subject to the rights of the mother, meaning the right of a mother to end her fetus's life under any circumstance, for any reason, and at any time in her pregnancy. Is that moral?
First of all, it's never at any time of pregnancy. Abortions are prohibited in the last trimester all across the world, including the United States. Only with an exception when pregnancy can affect women's health. Last trimester means from week 27 till the end of pregnancy.
It is only if we believe that the human fetus has no intrinsic worth.
I don't really know what is intrinsic worth. This is definitely not a question of biology, but philosophy, which automatically means that there is no definite answer to that question.
But in most cases, nearly everyone believes that the human fetus has essentially infinite worth and an almost absolute right to live. When? When a pregnant woman wants to give birth.
First of all, not everyone. If women cannot support and raise her child, that's a bad decision. The child will be malnourished first, deprived from the good education, and then become homeless or criminal. From the point of evolutional biology, the point is not to give birth to as many children as possible, but to make sure that your own kid can survive till the age of fertility so that he or she can propagate your DNA further.
Only if a pregnant woman doesn't want to give birth do many people regard the fetus as worthless. Now, does that make sense? It doesn't seem to. Either a human fetus has worth, or it doesn't.
Again, very strange manipulation. Things usually have some values or not under certain conditions. Like if you have an iPhone in your pocket, it has value and it's protected by law. But if you throw it away to the garbage can because it's too old, for example, it no longer has any value and it's not protected.
And this is moral argument number two. On what moral grounds does the mother alone decide a fetus's worth? We certainly don't do that with regard to a newborn child. It is society, not the mother or the father, that determines whether a newborn child has worth and a right to live. So the question is, why should that be different before the human being is born?
Fair point, Prager. But the manipulation here is that unconditional abortions allowed under 12 weeks under the US federal law. If you compare a 12 weeks old fetus with a newborn child, the difference is crucial. The central nervous system starts to form from the fetus spinal cord. That's why fetus can do some movements on very early stages. However, all brain capacities are turned off before last 2 weeks of pregnancy. You can think of a fetus as a human without a brain. If you're a religious person, you can think that soul is not being delivered yet from God.
Why does one person a mother, get to determine whether that being has any right to live. People respond by saying that a woman has the right to control her body. Now, that is entirely correct. The problem here, however, is that the fetus is not her body. It is in her body. It is a separate body. And that's moral argument number 3.
Manipulation again. It's both part of her body and in her body. What about an eye, for example? Is it a separate body or it's inside your body? You can cut it off and it will be alive for 2-3 minutes. The same would happen with the fetus under 12 weeks old.
Moral argument number 4. Virtually everyone agrees that the moment the baby comes out of the womb, killing the baby is murder. But deliberately killing it a few months before birth is considered no more morally problematic than extracting a tooth.
Same manipulation. On the federal level, it's not problematic only under 12 weeks. Then it depends on the state, but most of them are limiting abortions up to week 20 or up to point of viability of fetus. The thing is that we have to draw a line somewhere. All the scientific evidence shows that fetus under week 12 cannot survive outside the womb. Then, somewhere between week 20 and week 26, fetus develops this ability to survive outside the womb. Although brain at this point is present, there is still no mental activities. And let me be clear, we can discuss scientific and moral limits of unconditional abortions. And it's true that in Europe it's way more restrictive than in US. For example, in Germany it's 12 weeks, in Sweden it's 18. But drawing a line at conception doesn't make sense from scientific point of view. Every single human cell contains a DNA which can be cleared and transplanted into egg cell, and you can clone yourself. By that logic, cutting a hair is a murder. Actually, it's a genocide because you're killing thousands of perfectly healthy cells, each of which contains your own DNA.
Aren't there instances in which just about everyone, even among those who are pro-choice, would acknowledge that an abortion might not be moral? For example, would it be moral to abort a female fetus solely because the mother prefers boys to girls, as has happened millions of times in China and elsewhere?
I think it's a decision of a person if someone wants a boy or a girl. The thing is that with the current technology, you no longer need to abort to achieve that. With the assisted reproductive technology, you can create 5 different embryos, and all of them will have a different recombination of DNA. Some boys, some girls. You can pick up the most appropriate embryo you want and replant it back to the woman's womb. Since all the embryos are less than a week old, the moral issue is gone. That's all Prager's point. But I think they miss the most important argument. As you know, most of the pro-life people are Christians, and their main argument is that God prohibits that. The problem is that the Bible doesn't seem to have any place where it supports that statement. Contrary, in the 2 Kings, there is a following story about prophet Elisha. From there, Elisha went to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some boys came out from the town and jeered at him. "Get out of here, Baldy," they said. "Get out of here, Baldy." He turned around, looked at them, and called down a curse on them, "In the name of the Lord." Then 2 bears came out from the woods and mauled 42 of the boys, and he went on the Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Samaria. This amazing story shows that the Bible and the Yahweh El God supports the abortion of children even after several years after their birth. Now let's look at the abortion stats. People think that most of them, or at least the significant portion of them, are related to rape or incest or pose danger to the health of a woman. And actually it's one of the arguments of pro-choice people. Well, Guttmacher Institute did some stats, and in 2004 rape was 1% and incest was less than 0.5% of the cases. Danger of mother health is greater, but it's only 12%. The major reasons are: having a baby would dramatically change my life, 74%, and can't afford a baby now, 73%. Now, think for a moment what will happen if all unconditional abortions are prohibited. You have a woman who's already poor, or who will be poor if she gets another child. What will be the chances of the newborn baby to escape poverty? United States has the lowest social mobilities among developed countries, so the answer is obvious and sad. Now, poor people want more welfare state, and they will vote left. Sooner or later this leads to socialism or communism. There is no escape from there. Venezuela and Bolivia are very good examples. Probably you don't want that. You want to live in a prosperous country where every child has an opportunity for a successful future. Another problem is overpopulation. US has a very low density population and the most fertile land in the world. And that's one of the factors which makes individual people rich. I've been to many overpopulated African countries. They don't have access to condoms or abortions, and I've seen the poorest people there having like 5 to 7 children. At that point, there is not even a theoretical chance of this country to be lifted out of the poverty ever. Even China, despite all these crazy economical developments over the last 20 years, is still not really a desirable place to live. If they had 5 times less of the population, that would have not been the case. I think US needs to find a compromise on the issue of abortions. We live in the 21st century and our life should be guided by science. Abortions before week 12 of pregnancy are fully ethical and beneficial. In the same time, pro-choice people can give up some of their rights and prohibit unrestricted late-term abortions to match US with the rest of the industrial world. If you look at the statistics by weeks in the United States, almost 90% of abortions are made within the first 12 weeks, and only 1.2% are done after week 21, which doesn't seem to be a big deal. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!